Then when I went out to do Layla, we didn't really have very much material, and we started working and experimenting. And I just started recording everything I had in my head, including old blues standards and anything that I could play.
The phone rang, and it was Dwayne calling to find out if indeed Eric and the band were in the studio. And I said yes. He said, I'm going to be playing down there tomorrow night at the convention center, and I would love to come up to the studio afterwards. And I said, oh, that'll be fine, I'm pretty sure. And he said, just let me check with Eric.
When I heard Wilson Pickett's version of Hey Jude, I knew that Tom would be involved in the recording of that. And I asked him who it was, and he said, this is this guy called Skydog Allman.
I said, Eric, Dwayne Allman was on the phone. He and the brothers are playing here tomorrow, and he was hoping he could come by. And Eric looked at me. He said, you mean the chap who played on the back end of the Wilson Pickett Hey Jude record, and he plays me Dwayne's solo? And I said, yes. He said, he's playing here tomorrow? I said, he's doing an outdoor concert. He said, we have to go see him.
We went down there and sat in the front, just behind us in what would normally be the security line.
Dwayne opened his eyes during his solo, looked down, and stopped dead in his tracks. And from there on in, it was like two big wide-eyed kids looking at each other.
And I watched, and I was blown away by this band. It was so fantastic. And so we invited them all back to the studio, and we jammed, and Dwayne became, for that period of time, like the fifth member of Derek and the Dominoes.
There were very few words exchanged. It was just complete musical dialogue among them. They just look and say, hey man, how, and the magic happened. Okay, let me take it one more time. I can do it better than that. Just give me a second here. Okay, slug. Okay, play. Here comes the drum turn. Four more bars to the first vocal. From here. Vocal number 1. Eric and Dwayne had a great deal of respect for each other's taste, skill, and musicianship. And there was never a question that Dwayne was a fan of Eric's and Eric was a fan of Dwayne's.
We had both developed an early love for blues. And the interesting thing was that he was coming from a slightly different direction. He had developed a very unique bottleneck slide style while I was bending strings. So we were coming from the same place but traveling on different paths and could meet and yet sound completely different to one another, even though we had the same principles going on in our heads.
You know, it's been so long since I've been able to listen to these parts isolated. It's almost 30 years, that I just want to look at Eric and Dwayne playing duet on the lead and Dwayne playing the harmonic parts during the solo section. That's Dwayne that we hear on the left. And if I pull Dwayne down a little bit, now you're going to hear the duet. Dwayne and Eric playing the melody on the right. And here they are all together. And it's just beautiful. Those are notes that aren't on the instrument. Those are notes that are off the top of the instrument. And that's what makes those people such magnificent guitar players. It's in the tips of their fingers. It's not in a knob. It's not how loud they play. It's touch. It's touch. And both of them have exquisite technique and touch. And here comes the piano part. And from here on in, we have to start a new mix, because this was recorded almost 3 weeks after the part you just heard went by. there's the bass part. Oh my God, I found it. And here comes a Dwayne part of some sort. Ho ho! What is this? Wow. This is like looking at it for the first time all over again. You have to learn the whole song one more time. Good. Godfrey Daniels.
Most of my work done with Tom, the quality and the success of those recordings could mainly be laid at his door.
And here's another measure of piano. Don't ask me where this comes from. Oh, there's the forehand, yeah.
His role was making me feel comfortable and inspiring confidence in myself. And I've never been very rich in those areas. I've always been riddled with self-doubt about my work, especially as a composer or writer. And one of the ways that I think that where I could feel I could really trust Tom was that I'd seen how musically proficient he was, which is something that perhaps I've overlooked and other people might not have told you about, is that he really does know music, and much more than I had any grasp of. And so in those days, whenever I thought I had an idea or I wanted to record something, I would always think of Tom first, above doing it on my own, definitely, and above anybody else that I'd ever met.
There are my principles in one form or another.